All right, welcome back everybody. We're up to part 3 of my Dora build. I'm looking at the track over here. Still working on this base, and I've come up with a couple things I've got to change on it and show you what I got to do here and where I'm at. So let me go ahead and let's get the camera turned around, and I think instead of giving you such a wide shot, we'll zoom in a little bit better on this one. All right, so let's get this camera turned around. Okay, I'll zoom in here in a minute, but I just wanted to show you where I'm at. I went down my son-in-law's and got my piece of wood cut. Now this is all glued together. I don't have the tracks glued together yet, or glued down, because I'm still messing with them. But you can see the way I glued this with all them little strips. This is pretty good and solid now. Still got some flex to it, so that's why I believe if you're going to do this you need a base. So here's that piece of wood I cut. It's 1.5 inches wide piece of oak. I had to cut it down. This was originally 3/4 inch. I had to cut it down to 19/32. That is the distance from this to being level with this part here. Okay, so I got it pretty well marked off on the board where it's going to go. It'll run down pretty much down like through the center here on the bottom. So this is pretty much set up where about it's going to be, and then I'll glue this down with some tight bond. That's the best thing I found for wood glue. I'll get that glued down, put some weight on it, and once it's set up, then I will epoxy this to that board. Okay, and then I will I'll put some weight on this when I epoxy it, and then that will give me that strength I was looking for. No longer is it flexible in here. That 19/32 was critical, because I had to get that just right so that the edges will sit flat and the middle will sit right on that board. And you can see I'm pushing it almost all the way to the back. All right, and I got 1 1/8 inches on each end. And this will be open. I've got some plans for that, but I'm having trouble finding what I want. But I will find it. All right, so let me get you zoomed in here and show you where I'm at. All right, so I'm back. Here we are. I was looking for one of my little finger pointers and I couldn't find the right one. So I had to stop, take a break, and make a new one. And in the process, got up out of my chair, tripped over my tripod, my camera went flying. I thought, oh my God, I just ruined my camera, but it turned out okay. And then I had to make a copy of something, so I had a model sitting on top of my copier. I had to move it. When I went to put it back, I dropped it, but it turned out okay. I didn't hurt it. But I had to make me a new pointer. So, here we are. Oh, wait a minute. I think that's the wrong one. Hold on. Don't want to make nobody mad with that one. Now here's my new pointer I had to make. All right. No big deal. But it almost cost me a camera. So, I got that piece of wood gluing up on my base. So I'm over here at one of my wife's art tables. What I want to show you here is when I flip this thing over after I glued it all together, you can see seam lines where each section of these railroad ties came on that base. You know, there were 7 sections. Well, there's a good seam line between each one. And I got them together nice and tight. You can only push them together so far, and that was it because of them little clips on the back. But that's no big deal. I got a way of taking care of that. I ain't worried about that. But what I was looking at when I was studying this thing is these railroad ties, all right? I got to looking at them and I thought, boy, you know what? In real life, that looks like a pretty long railroad tie. So I took a measurement on it, got on my scale calculator on the computer, and it turns out in real life, these railroad ties would be 28.5 feet long. And I don't think that's right. I don't think, you know, you had to stop and think about them having to transport these things and guys moving them around and stuff. So I got some of my pictures out. Let me get this one here. Let me set this up here and see if it's showing up. Yeah, that's showing up pretty good. Let me move it over a little bit. And if you look at this picture real good, you can see between the two sets of tracks, right down the middle, there's some plates. And it looks like they got 4 railroad spikes in each plate. Okay? So what that's telling me is this was not one big long railroad tie. It was 2 of them together. And they were jointed together down along the center. So now that turns it into a 14 feet railroad tie instead of 28 feet long. So what I'm going to do, and I cut me up a bunch of styrene, and I don't know what the thickness of this was, all right, because it was just laying in one of my drawers. But I kind of matched it up. There's a joiner here where these railroad tracks are, where they, you know, put a railroad spike in a metal plate there to hold that track down. And I kind of matched it up to that. And that is just about the same thickness, all right? So I figured, okay, this will work good for my joiners down the center there, where I got to join them tracks together. So I cut some of them, and this is what I'm looking at right here. All right, it's not on there perfect, but it will be when I go to glue it down. So I'll have a bunch of these on top of every one of them railroad ties. I think there's 112 railroad ties. Okay. Then I got me some styrene rod. 0.025 rod. And that's some pretty thin, small stuff. It's real small. And I'm kind of matched it up to what looks like a railroad spike right here. And that's just about the same size of that. So I'll cut little pieces of this off and glue on top of this in 4 different spots, and it will look like a railroad spike. All right. So that's where I'm at. I'm waiting on that piece of wood to dry up over there, and then I think I'm going to take this over and epoxy it down on that base. Because right now you go moving this around and it's kind of flexible, and I don't want to take a chance of messing anything up. So I'm going to go ahead and epoxy it to that base. And then, hold on, gotta get them. So in the process of doing all these little things, I've got, I think there's 48 in there, railroad joiners. And these little things go right here where each railroad track comes together. It will fit in there like that, okay? And there's one on the outside, one on the inside of each rail. And there it just went onto the floor. Oh my God. And one will go on the outside, inside, outside, inside on both sets of tracks. So I got 48 of those things to get on there, plus all these things. So here we are. We're already into 3 videos, and I haven't even got the base halfway done. But I knew that going into this was going to be a challenge. It's going to be a long, tough model to get together. All right, I think that's going to be it for this little section. I think I'll have some more coming. I'll get this. I think I'll get started on this, and then we'll come back and show you where I'm at. Okay, so here we are, we're back about 3 days later, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I got the base all glued down, okay, nice and solid. That piece of wood going down through the middle really made the difference, okay. So this is all nice and solid and ready to go. Now I got it turned around. This is the back of it because it's easier for me to work on it than reaching over all that. But before I get into all this that I did here, we're going to talk about this track a little bit and some of the things I read about it. One of the things I read that when the gun, right here, let me turn the camera around so I can see what you're seeing. Alright, is that when the gun was fired, when they had the barrel in pretty much of a full vertical position, that when it was fired, that the recoil action actually would damage the tracks. Now that's what I read. One guy said that. Now whether it's true or not, I don't know. But from that recoil, that gun firing would cause such a recoil that it would leave little indentations on the tracks where all the wheels of the bogies were. So that's how much power that thing had. And also, let me show you this here, this picture I had before where I was showing all these plates down the middle. If you look at this picture, you'll see this extra stuff here added on the railroad ties. And it got me to thinking, well, what the heck is that for? And I looked at quite a few pictures. It was only in the curve of the track. Wherever they made a bend, they put this in there. And I got to thinking, and I looked on a couple forums, and a couple guys were speculating, well, it looked like a cog system for the railroad car or something, or some way to lock the gun into position, but it was only in the curve. So I started thinking about that, and I got to wondering it, and I read on another forum where the guy had the same idea that I had, that this was used to strengthen up these railroad tracks and these ties and to hold them all in the position, because when that gun fired in a curve, that recoil would shove these tracks sideways. So this was used, I believe, to strengthen up that whole system in a bend. So I think that's what that's all about. Because when you stop and think about it, that gun firing in a curved position would send it sideways. So they had to do that to beef it up. Alright, so let's get back to mine. My original plan for this was to build my own railroad tracks, to go out to a hobby store and buy the metal railroad tracks, wooden ties, and then get that cork that that model railroaders lay their track on, and build all this myself. Okay, well, I got to looking around. I would have to take one of these pieces of track with me and go to a store and try and find a scale in model railroad that would match that. That's definitely way bigger than HO scale. So I got to thinking about it. I thought, you know what, this is good enough. I'll just use what they gave me. And you know, like I said, I'm doing a lot of improvements to it. So let me focus you in a little bit more, and I'll show you where I'm at and what I've been doing. Watch out, I don't trip over my camera again. So let me zoom in here. Wrong way. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let me see where I'm at. I'm right here. All right, you can see I've got each one of those little rail joiners on all the tracks where they come together. And there's one on each side. There's another one inside here, and there and there. All right, so I got all those glued into place. And then as you can see, I put all them little strips of styrene down there. Okay. And then I got my little pieces on top of them that look like railroad spikes. Let me zoom you in some more and see if you can see that. All right, I don't know if it's showing up or not, but there they are. I might be able to get you a little closer. All right. Now, here comes the fun part. Okay. And I'm just doing this by eye. You know, what's pleasing to the eye and what looks like it's in scale. Okay. And so I glued all these little flat pieces of styrene down. And then, like I said, I was going to come along and take this. Let me turn the camera around again. I can't see. Okay, then I was going to take this styrene here. Where are we at? Let's see. Right is left, left is right. There's my arm. Where's my plastic? There it is. There it is. And I was going to take this little plastic rod, like I said, and I was going to glue them down on there to make like railroad spikes. Well, that didn't work. You know, I couldn't get them to sit up nice and straight and stay in place. So what I had to do, and I know what you guys are going to say, well, why didn't I get on the internet and order some rivets or even railroad spikes I could have ordered. I thought, no, I ain't going to do that. I'll just drill a bunch of holes. I'll just drill a bunch of holes and then take this and stick this in each hole, then cut it off and go to the next one. Yeah, what the heck, I got nothing better to do than drill 460 holes. Right there, my little pin vise. Where's it at? Right there. My little pin vise, my little drill. I broke one drill. That was my second one. So 2 days and one drill bit later, I had all my holes drilled. Okay. So then I just came along, and I'm going to show you this. I got one left to do. I'll show you how I did it. And I stuck them in there and cut them off. So I also found out, looking on the internet, where a guy said that there are something like over 1,800 parts with this kit. Well, stop and think. I just added 112 more little plates and 480 of these little, what look like railroad spikes. So now I just took it up to over 2,372 parts if you count each and every one of these little railroad spikes as a part. So that's what I've been doing for the past 3 days. Alright, so let me get you down here. I got one of these left and I'll show you how I did this. So let me reset the camera. Okay, so I'm zoomed in here pretty good. And I'm going to try and keep my hands out of the way. But I got this one right here to do. Okay. Now if you can see, there's that little plate I glued down. And then I came along and drilled 4 holes in each one of these. Okay. So then I come along and here's how I did it. Got my Tamiya glue. Alright. Get this open. And here's my little rod. Okay. So what I got to do here, and I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way, and I got such a small area to show you. I take this glue and put a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch of it, I get saturated with this glue, all right? Then I take it and stick it in that hole. Now I don't have my magnifiers on. There it goes. Now it's down in that hole. Then I come along with my cutters. Let me get my magnifiers, because this has got to be pretty close to where I want it. And here they are. All right. Then I'm trying to get it to just about the right spot. I've got to hold on to this here. Okay. Get it down there pretty close to where I think it's right. And snip it off. Okay. Then I take my glue again. Cover the bottom of it about 1/4 of an inch, like I said, because it bottoms out down in there. Them holes went through that little plate that I made and that railroad tie. It's kind of hard finding this hole. Okay, there we go. Got it in there. Come along, get it close, snip it off. All right, and make sure it's standing up nice and neat. Now, I'm going to have to come along. Once this all dries up, I'm going to let it sit for a good day. And then come along with my sanding stick right here. And go along and sand them down a little bit. Because some of them are a little high. But that's what I've been doing for going on 3 days now. Yeah, like I said, I didn't have nothing better to do than drill all them holes. And I'll tell you what, this little pin vise, these are the best ones I found, because they're really machined nice and where's it at? Right here. Let me back out a little bit. This is hard to do when you're so close like this. There you go. These are the best pin vices I found. The tips where the drill bit goes in are really finely machined, and they work the best for me. But as you can see, there's no little spinner on the end of it here. So as you're drilling, I about wore out this one finger here from sitting here trying to drill all these holes. Let me see if I'll put it in there like that. Hold it like this and then drill each and every one of these holes. I about wore out this finger. But yeah, I could, like I said, I could have got on the internet and ordered something. You know, they make all kinds of rivets, bolts, nuts. You can even get little railroad ties, but I think as small as I've wanted, that would have been kind of tough. Okay, so I'm a glutton for punishment, you know. And the thing is, they could have molded this into this plastic. They could have done this. That would have been no big deal to add this extra little piece into the mold. I don't know why they didn't do it. I don't know if they don't have access to the same pictures that I got or what. But you can definitely see, like I said, right there's them plates. And you can even see some of the spikes aren't nailed down all the way. So it's not like they're real even all the way down. Some of them might be a little higher than others. And the model itself is going to cover up most of this. So you won't see half of this. Okay, so yeah, like I said, that's what I've been doing for 3 days. But it's getting there. I just think it adds a little bit more realism to it, you know. I'm just not building a model, I'm building history. So I'd like to go this extra step. I think it's going to look nicer once it's all done. Okay, I think that's about it for this section. All right. One more thing, and then I think we'll call it quits for this video this week, and we'll pick up from there. I've always getting questions about where'd you get this, where'd you get that, and like I said, I'm trying to film this video in such a way that I can avoid guys having to ask me that, and I'll show you what I got. First thing is, though, when I did this epoxy, when I epoxied this thing down, instead of mixing that epoxy in a big goop, a big pile of it, because I was going to need a lot, what I did was, and this is a piece of that wood, what I did was I took my 5-minute epoxy, okay, and I went along this piece of wood down here under the track, and I put about every, it was probably about that much, about what, 6 inches? I put part A and part B, part A and part B right on the wood, and I did that all the way down, and then I just came along and mixed it up real good and then let it sit, kind of spread it out a little bit, and then mix this one up real good and let it sit. And I had to hurry up and do that down, this whole piece of wood, and then I just came over, set my track down on it. That way it avoided that problem of having to mix up a big batch of this epoxy and then trying to transfer it off of something onto this. So I just mixed it right on the board itself, and it worked. Like I said, this is nice and solid. Now, my pin vise. I said how much I like those 1-pin vices. I just got these at the hobby store. You can get on the internet. I think Micro Mart probably has them. But I said this before, I try to go to the hobby store whenever I can. It keeps them in business, and it keeps me from having to pay shipping charges. I might pay a couple bucks more, but I can go there and get the supplies I want, and I can get them right now. But this little thing came in 4 different sizes, okay? And like I said, the tips are just well made. I've got a bunch of them other kind of pin vices, the real cheapy ones, but these are my go-to ones. These are well made. There's no brand name on them, but if you look around on a couple websites, you probably can find them. And then my drill bits, I got them at the hobby store too. They come in a little container like this of the real small ones, and I got to go back and get me some more. They're kind of expensive, but you can get an assortment of real small drill bits, and I just picked them up at the hobby store. If you was to go way back in one of my videos, I bought some from Harbor Freight. They were junk. They were, if you would watch that video, they were just, all I can say is they were junk. They were useless. I just wasted my money doing that. So I spent a few extra bucks, and once again, you can get on the internet and find this stuff, okay? Luckily in town here, and now it's on the other side of town, but I have a Hobby Town. That's what this came from, Hobby Town. And they got probably the best supply of this kind of stuff that you want. Now that I moved to the other side of town, there is a hobby store about 4 minutes away from me, but you know, most of them hobby stores anymore, they're into their RC stuff and remote controlled planes and all that. But they did have a pretty good supply of other things too, and I'll show you later in the next video what I bought. But yeah, try and you know, pay your respects to them guys once in a while. It helps keep them in business, and when you run out of something or you need something real fast, you just run over there and grab it. And like I said, it keeps you from paying that shipping charge, so you know, if you pay a couple bucks more, what the hell. Alright, so I think that's it this week. Like I said, I also bought me some of these little Dremels. Now the smallest they go here in this thing is 1/32, and believe it or not, that was too big. I had to go to my little stash. And you might think of that. Now, if I remember right, there was like 2 of each size drill bit in here. And I've broken quite a few of them over the couple years that I've had them. I think I've replaced this once or twice. So, yeah, you just have to search around, you know. You can find it. But check out your hobby store if you got one in your area. That's where I do a lot of my shopping. Probably tomorrow, today's Friday, probably tomorrow I'm going to take a run over there. There's a couple things I want to get so I can get this part of the model done. Alright, that's it for this week.